Hi, everyone. This is Jacqui Cooper with JCooperTravels talk show, and I want to welcome everyone back to this episode. I'm really excited to have another fellow travel uh, agent, traveler, global entrepreneur who's on with me today, and I'm going to have her introduce herself in a quick second. For those of you that are not familiar with JCooperTravels, I just want to share a little bit about the history, how I got started, and the focus. So I am all about travel, both around the world as well as, locally as well. And I am a certified travel consultant. But when COVID happened, I also realized that how we travel in life is not just geographically, it's also personally. We have a special path that we're traveling. So the show is both about how do you travel around the world. And today we're going to be talking about tips on how to travel and have a really fun way to travel. But it's also about how do we travel in life, both with our family, professionally, career-wise, and to make our quality of life and our journey enjoyable as well as kind for others as well. So with that, today I'm really excited to have the topic just be about travel. And since I just came back from Portugal, I'm all excited about getting on the plane again. How are you doing today? Introduce yourself and share your business name. I'm really grateful that you're here today. How are you doing?
I am well, thank you very much. Thanks for having me. I am Talek Nantes, and my website is Travels with Talek. I am a travel blogger, and I'm also a best-selling Amazon author and digital content creator. And I am absolutely thrilled to be here to talk about travel in general and special travel tips in particular. And at the end of this interview, I would like to share the single most important travel tip that I have learned throughout my many, many years of travel experience.
And I'm super excited for that. So how did you start this journey about traveling, being in the travel space, being a blogger, being an author? I mean, there's a lot on your resume list. I know it all started with your love of travel, but how did you get started?
Well, I like to say that I've been traveling even before I was born. My mom came from Cuba and she was very pregnant with me, and I was born in New York City. And shortly thereafter, within a couple of months, we were all on the plane back to Cuba to visit family. So I haven't stopped traveling since then. I've traveled all my life. My mother had a travel agency in New York City, and I remember that there was a huge map on the wall. And I would sit there for hours staring at the map and imagining what life was like in places like Fiji Islands. And I just became fascinated with travel. And of course, being in a travel agency family, that helped a lot. And being bicultural, I believe, exposes you to the pleasures of travel even that much more. I got a degree, an MBA in international business in general, and my career was in international business development for companies like Kraft Foods for 35, 40 years. At the end of that career, where I lived in just about all continents and worked in places as far as remote as China, Nigeria, Argentina, Dominican Republic, Colombia, and absolutely loved that career. At the end of it, I was not ready to let it go. So I said, okay, how can I combine my love of travel? How can I continue my love of travel and share it with other people, helping other people to create their own unique travel experiences and to share everything that I have learned in my lifetime of travel. So I decided, hey, a travel blogger is ideal for combining travel and also writing, which is something that I've also been very fond of throughout my life.
So why don't we go ahead and start with some of the travel tips. And I know that you've been to many places. We'll also maybe share some of your favorite locations as well. But what's one of the tips that you wanted to share?
Okay, in terms of staying safe, I think that one of the most important tips is especially for women. We women are raised to be polite and to be considerate and to not make waves and to not offend people or to not be rude. And sometimes when you're traveling, if you're in an uncomfortable situation, like a taxi driver is taking you someplace that you know is not right, it's okay to say, hey, stop the car, I'm getting off right here, or I'm going to call the cop. It's okay to be rude. And I think that that will help you keep people or make people aware. It's like, hey, this is somebody that I cannot take advantage of so easily. This is not some shy little female, shy little girl. This is someone who's going to stand up for herself. So it's very important. And don't worry about telling the waiter, hey, that's not what it says on the menu, or that's not the price that you told me. Or to in general, women should be careful to don't worry about offending people. If you're uncomfortable, make a scene, make a scene. Your life might even depend on it. So don't worry about offending people when you're traveling. Besides, you're never going to see this person again. So what do you care?
Well, I agree with you, from this perspective that we need to stand up for ourselves. And you're right. Sometimes we are very polite and accommodating, but you do have to, like you said, follow your intuition, especially if you know, or if you sense that you might be going in the wrong direction, because a lot of times when we're traveling, we're in a country or an area that we're not quite sure, but also use your judgment. So if you see that the neighborhood seem to be changing and you're not feeling comfortable with that, ask questions as well. So I agree with you totally. Staying silent is not always the best behavior when your safety might be at risk.
Correct. I agree 100%. In terms of transportation, I like to divide my travel tips in 5 parts. One is staying safe, which is the most important thing. 2 is transportation, because there is so much money involved in transportation when you travel. 3rd is staying healthy and comfortable. You have to be comfortable when you travel. It's going to make all the difference between a good trip and not. Number 4 is pack light and smart. Always, every time that you can travel with only a carry-on makes all the difference in the world. And the last point is saving money before and during your travel, also critical. So in terms of, we talked about staying safe. In terms of transportation, one good tip is that you research airport transportation to your hotel before you arrive at the airport. Taxis can be very expensive, or it's prime opportunity to rip people off when you don't know. Sometimes they won't put their meters on and so forth. So depending on the country, if you can research just online, go to the hotel and find out how to get to, go to the airport and find out what is the transportation to your hotel, or contact your hotel and say, hey, how do I get there from the airport? Buses are very efficient in places like Asia, for example, and Europe, and trains are extremely efficient in Asia and also in Europe. Those are even more so than in the United States, and they are going to be 1/10 of the price of a taxi. So transportation is absolutely key. And another good point, sign up for global entry. If you can, it's $100. Just go to globalentry.com. It's the Department of Homeland Security. It will save you hours of standing online when you come back into the United States. That's another good transportation tip.
So
Staying,
before
go
we
ahead.
go over to the other tips, one of the things I want to mention is if for some reason you haven't done the research as recommended, and if you are in a country and you're going to take a cab, like I did, I had not done the advanced research. I had assumed, which was wrong, that the hotel had a bus to from
A
the
shuttle
airport.
bus,
And
right?
they did have a shuttle bus, but with COVID, it was only one way. So they originally they had it round trip, But with COVID, it was only from the hotel now back to the airport, not airport to. So I had to take a cab. But the one thing to remember before you step in that cab, ask them up front, how much are they charging you? Before you put your bags in their trunk, before you actually get in. And if it's a reasonable amount and that you are comfortable with, then go ahead and take it. And I was traveling with my daughter and she said, why did you ask? I said, because I want to know in advance what it is he's going to charge. So if I didn't think it was fair, I was going to go to the next cab driver and say, all right, what are you charging? So again, I agree with you. You have to research it. Times are a little bit strange right now. So you're right. Call the hotel, get specifics. I didn't do that. I was doing it on the fly, but I learned.
Yeah, it happens.
Does happen.
One thing that's a great tip, and I'll tell you why it is such a great tip at the end of the interview. Something else that you can do in many countries, they have little kiosks where you go and you tell them, okay, I'm going to such and such a place. You pay the kiosk. He or she gives you a ticket, which you hand to the taxi driver. You don't even exchange money with the taxi driver. So that's very
That's
good.
true.
And I've seen that all over Latin America, and I've seen it all over the Indian subcontinent airports. So that between those kiosks in the less developed countries and the very efficient local transportation in the more developed countries, I mean, you've got your a safe transport to your ultimate destination accommodation. So.
Yep.
Okay, another point is staying healthy and comfortable. People don't think about this sometimes, but it is so important, especially for older women. Make sure that do not bring new shoes with you. Don't, as beautiful as they may be, leave them home. Get yourself some very, very comfortable shoes and use only that. Also, very important, don't keep valuables in your checked luggage. My suggestion is never have checked luggage anyway, always carry a carry-on, but some people can, or some people are maybe going for a very long time. So things like your medicine, things like your glasses, if your luggage gets lost, maybe an extra pair of underwear or something like that. Make sure that you keep your valuables, your chargers, all of those things, keep them with you on the plane. The number one tip, this is according to Allianz Insurance Company, the number one thing that messes people up, that gets people into trouble when they travel, is that they think that when they're traveling, they're all of a sudden they're Superman or Superwoman, things that you would not do, like going on a 5-hour hike when you haven't hiked in the last 20 years. If you wouldn't do that in the United States or wherever your home country is, but you go on vacation and all of a sudden, hey, I'm going to go on the jet ski, I'm going to go parasailing, be careful. That is the number one reason why people go into the emergency rooms when they travel. So Allianz always, they refer that is to the Superman syndrome.
I'm gonna add on to that. And I think you would agree with this. Get travel insurance, please. Because of the fact that the unexpected does happen and it's not just lost luggage. So think about, getting a plan that's affordable for you, but it is worth the investment, because if you do happen to go into a hospital or emergency situation, the travel insurance can help you in many, many situations.
I would never dream of going on any international trip without travel insurance. It's absolutely critical.
Yep.
You should. I mean, you have to. It's not even up for debate. It's absolutely critical to do that. And if you're going to a remote, quote unquote, exotic destination, you might want to get one of these medevac.
Yep.
MedJet is one of them. If anything happens to you, they'll put you on a jet with all of the medical accoutrements and fly you to wherever you want to go, your hospital, your home hospital. So it's a nice to have peace of mind investment.
That's exactly what it is. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so next one is packing light and smart. Of course, as I said, try to go only with carry-ons. You bring Ziplocs. Everybody says to me, like, what do you work for Ziploc? You get a commission to bring Ziplocs. You can use them for anything. You can put sandwiches in there. You can put dirty laundry in there. You can put a moment of desperation. You could even put your phone in there if you're in the beach and you don't want it to get wet or to get sandy. There's so many other things that you can use for a Ziploc for. So
I
definitely.
totally agree with you. I agree with you about the idea of packing light and packing with just a carry-on and also using Ziplocs. That's something that my daughter and I do as much as possible. And it makes it, you can also compress the air out of things. So it
Yeah.
means you can actually carry more because of that. So
Yes, they have now not only cubes, travel cubes, which I
yeah,
swear by, but now they have compression travel cubes. So that's even, that's just mind-boggling. So the problem with that is that you can pack so much into your bag that you'll be tempted to pack that much more because
that's right. That's right.
so you don't want to do that. But lastly, saving money before and during your trip. Very important, explore budget airlines. People only look at the Americans, United, BA, Lufthansa. Look at the Violings in Germany. I mean, look at Jet in India. Look at Ryanair in Ireland. Look at EasyJet in England. Those rates are phenomenal between key cities if you're going to that part of the world. So definitely check out the budget airlines. Get your credit cards that have travel rewards. That's a given. Every time you spend on your credit card, you get travel points, which you can exchange for award travel. So who doesn't want to save money on those? Make sure to search more than just one engine, one airline engine. So try Skyscanner is a very good one because they have all of the airlines, including the budget airlines. Momondo is another one. Google Flights is another one. But check them all. Do some good comparison there. Don't just go with the first one. And even if you think that's a very, very good deal that you've just identified, check a little bit more. You never know. If for no other reason than to confirm a good decision that you've had.
And also check at different times of the week because the rates do change.
Yes, they do.
So it's I haven't really figured out the formula, but just check it.
Yeah. Well, that's a good thing about Google Flights, for example, and I believe Momondo also. It will tell you what the cost of the flight is on different days without you having to go and research. Oh, what is it on Tuesday? Oh, what is it on Thursday? It has has the entire month. So you can really just very, very quickly identify the best price. Also, really important when you're looking for a place to eat, try and find places that are at least 5 blocks away from the major tourist area. Major tourist areas, they tend to be more expensive. They tend not to be the best because they don't have to be the best. They know that you're there for one day, one meal. You're never going to come back. Chances are you're not going to come back. So they don't have to be top notch. But if you go at least 5 blocks away, look for little restaurants there. Look at the people. Do they look like they live there as opposed to, German or Dutch tourists or somebody from California visiting Madrid? I mean, look for a Madrid local. Where are they eating? I think that you will save a lot of money. And in addition to that, you'll have better meals.
The other thing that I'll just add, my daughter's is vegan and I'm vegetarian, and you might discover, when you do your research on that there are a lot of communities now that have meal options. And so it's really fun to explore those restaurants as well. We have and when we were in Lisbon, we sampled 3 different restaurants that had all different varieties of food that were just delicious. So again, feel free to explore, from that perspective too.
That's true. And there are a lot of bloggers that specialize in vegan or vegetarian food. So check them out because they have made it their mission to identify and offer those types of meals. So, take advantage of the efforts that they've gone through. When converting currency, avoid airport kiosks. That is the place where you're going to find the most expensive exchange rates. The second most expensive exchange rates are in hotels, and the third most expensive ones are in banks. Okay, so where do you go? You go to your ATM. That's a very, very good rate. And also look for areas that have large immigrant communities and they have exchange houses. They have very, very good rates as well. Also, be flexible when you're booking. You don't have to fly into London Heathrow. Maybe fly into Luton and then take the bus into Heathrow, which is about 40 minutes. But if the rate is like $300 or $400 difference, look at what you're saving. I'm willing to invest 40 minutes of my time in exchange for $400. Absolutely.
Well, especially if you're taking a bus, you're seeing a different part of the country. So
Yeah.
that's part of the adventure of exploring and kind of checking out other sites. So
Absolutely. And also be flexible in terms of dates, which we've already talked about. And now the number one travel tip of all time is one that you identified 10 minutes into this conversation. And that is never, ever, ever agree to make a purchase unless you know exactly what it's going to cost. The number one is taxis. They're going to try every trick in the book to take advantage of you. I mean, I have relatives that are taxi drivers, and the vast majority are good guys. But there are some guys that are going to really try and identify people that look like, oh, okay, yeah, take me to such and such an hotel. You don't ask how much it is. You're inviting a ripoff. So that's super, super important. But it doesn't only go for that. Just to give you an example, I was eating in a restaurant in Barcelona, and the waiter, I said, well, what do you recommend? He says, oh, we have great seafood dishes. It wasn't on the menu. It was a special. So we ordered it, and we looked at the prices. And okay, prices in general are not too bad. So let's order the special. Wow, Barcelona seafood. It was an outrageous bill. And that's because we did not ask beforehand. Another thing is wine. Sometimes in Europe, you'll ask for wine and they'll make a recommendation or they'll leave it on the table. Find out how much is that wine. And that's another time that people are embarrassed to ask. Like, oh, he's going to think I'm cheap. Just ask. Save yourself a lot of money and heartache.
yeah, no, I agree. I think these are wonderful, wonderful tips. Anything else on your tip list?
Oh, I've got hundreds of them, but I know that we don't have hours and hours. So
that's okay. We can always do another episode. So
Great.
As we wrap it up, I know you've been all over, but if you had another place to go back and visit, where would it be?
A place, well, number one, my home city, New York City. I think it's just awesome, and it's awesome every time of year as well, all 4 seasons. But in addition to that, a country that I go back to frequently, and I run tours to that country, and it is an absolutely gorgeous country. That is Cuba.
Yeah.
It is culturally fascinating. The people are great. The music, the art, the culture, the architecture, the whole vibe, the beaches, the natural beauty, the UNESCO World Heritage Sites, the nightlife. It's just awesome. It's a beautiful place. That is my number one spot. Absolutely. After my city.
I love that. I love that. And, it's on my bucket list to go visit. So I'll be in contact with you, about your tours and everything. So everyone, thank you so much, Talek, for being on and sharing your wisdom. The contact information will be in the block below for those that are not familiar with talk shows. So feel free to reach out and ask questions. And we're both here to help you have the best trip possible. So definitely reach out to either one of us and tell us where you want to go next. And we'll see if we can't make it happen in a way that's both affordable as well as enjoyable. So thank you so much, Talek, for being on, and I look forward to talking with you soon.
Thank you so much for having me.